1619, the Banda Islands, Indonesia. Tiny, peaceful communities sitting on a global nutmeg motherlode. They traded freely with anyone until the Dutch showed up and demanded the whole thing. The Bandanese refused. So the Dutch burned villages, hunted survivors through the jungle, and slaughtered almost everyone. 15,000 people erased for a spice now sold in a plastic jar. How could a nation known for tolerance unleash something like this? Hey, hoi, welcome to the Dutch door. Kom erin. Ga je mee? We talked last time about how the Dutch rose, the windmill that pumped out cheap timber, the flout, the IKEA flat pack of ships fast and cheap, the navigation that turned oceans into highways. But we haven't talked about what they did with all that power. This is the chapter most school books skip. This is the part that isn't painted on Delft tiles. 1602, Amsterdam. 6 trading companies merged and created something new, the VOC, the Verenigde Oost-Indische Compagnie, or the Dutch East India Company. Not a company like Apple, more like Apple plus the Pentagon, plus a bank, plus its own prison system. The Dutch government gave it insane powers. It could sign treaties, build armies, execute people, take land, mint money. Shareholders ran an empire. It was the world's first multinational, first stock, first dividends. At its height, it was worth roughly $8 trillion in today's scale, about 6 times Apple. And it wasn't just rich, it ruled. 70,000 employees, 200 ships, 10,000 soldiers, 40 outposts from South Africa to Japan. This wasn't just business. This was a state wearing a corporate logo, and its goal was simple: choke the spice trade until nobody else could breathe. The target? The Moluccas. Cloves, nutmeg, mace. Nowhere else on earth grew them naturally. Imagine if all the world's coffee came from 3 tiny islands. Same situation. For centuries, local rulers traded freely. The Portuguese tried to lock it down. They failed. Too spread out. Then the Dutch arrived, and they weren't interested in negotiating. 1605, first VOC fleet. 1609, a fortress on Ternate. 1619, they turned to Banda, the nutmeg jackpot. 15,000 people lived there. Traders, farmers, families. They'd run their own economy for 1,000 years. Enter young Pieterszoon Koen, a man with statues and streets named after him still in the Netherlands. Here's his resume. He sailed in with 13 ships, 1,600 soldiers, and a simple offer: give us every nutmeg, or we burn everything down. The Bandanese refused. Koen attacked, village by village, island by island. Kill, enslave, and deport. Elders tortured and displayed as warnings. Within 2 years, 15,000 people became less than 1,000. Whole islands turned into empty plantations. Then the VOC brought enslaved people from Java and other islands to work the fields. They burnt nutmeg trees elsewhere, so the monopoly stayed perfect. Control the geography, control the price, control the world. That's what spices meant. Banda was the template. If it worked once, scale it up. Koen founded Batavia, today's Jakarta, as VOC HQ. From there, they expanded the shopping list: sugar, tea, coffee, textiles, tin and wood. Then came the cultuurstelsel, basically, grow what we want, not what you eat. Rice fields became sugar fields. Farmers became laborers. Quotas were impossible, and punishment filled the gap. Meanwhile, profits in Amsterdam were ridiculous. For 2 centuries, VOC shareholders enjoyed average dividends of 18% every single year. Better than any modern hedge fund. Indonesians starved for it. The VOC also ran the Asian slave trade. People moved like cargo between islands, forts, and ships. They built Batavia with forced labor. And in the Caribbean, the Dutch West India Company copied the model. Suriname, Curaçao, Sint Maarten, sugar plantations run on enslaved Africans. Same logic, different ocean. By 1650, Amsterdam was the richest city on earth. The mansions, the art, the canals, the golden age wasn't golden. It was extracted wealth, polished up nicely. Here's the simple version. Where the VOC landed, it didn't trade, it took. If a local ruler refused a treaty, they replaced him. If a village traded with a competitor, they burnt it. If prices were inconvenient, they rigged them. Cheap in Indonesia, expensive in Europe, profit in between. And because the VOC had its own navy and army, nobody could stop it. The Dutch government didn't intervene, they were investors. Imagine a modern country where Amazon or Exxon has its own warships. That's the VOC. This wasn't commerce, it was extraction. The stats are brutal. 1 million Europeans sailed to Asia under the VOC. Almost half never came back. Disease, war, shipwrecks. But the real cost? Millions of Indonesians. Famines, forced crops, massacres. Records don't even capture the scale. The VOC paid out the equivalent of 2.5 million tons of silver in dividends. Amsterdam became the world's financial hub, and all the pretty things, Rembrandt, Vermeer, the science, the neat little houses, ran on Indonesian labor and blood. Here's the uncomfortable connection. Everything we praised in earlier episodes, the windmill, the shipping, the math, made this machine possible. Technology isn't moral, it just amplifies whoever uses it. 1602 to 1800, 2 centuries of the most profitable corporation ever built. A system running on trade, yes, but also violence, slavery, and monopoly. The Dutch became one of the richest nations on earth. Tiny country, global reach. But systems like this don't last. Corruption, British competition, costs. The VOC collapsed. In 1799, the Dutch government took over its territories. But the extraction didn't magically stop. It just changed uniforms. Colonies stayed colonies into the 20th century. Next time, the fall, World War II, independence, revolutions, the migrations, and the people, like my family, caught in the middle. How the Dutch lost their empire and what came after.